Ja, vielen herzlichen Dank für die Einladung und für die nette Begrüßung. Mein Arm war bei der Frage nach der Wehrpflicht nur halb hoch. Nicht, weil ich gegen mehr Personal wäre, sondern ich glaube, die Frage zu pauschal gestellt war. Denn eine einfache Wiedereinführung der alten Wehrpflicht bzw. die Wiedereinsetzung des alten Wehrdienstes würde uns nur wenig helfen, solange die Kapazitäten so sind, wie sie sind. Aber wie so oft im Leben, die Wahrheit liegt in der Mitte. Lieber Minister Pevkur, dear Hanno, members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to kick off the second day of the conference with you. But if you think I'm here to paint a rosy picture of Europe, you are mistaken. Don't get me wrong. Europe has achieved a lot, and in my heart, I'm a staunch European. But our continent is at a crossroads, and pretending otherwise won't help. The European Union is not perfect. In fact, in some areas, it is deeply dysfunctional. Too often it is slow, inefficient, and paralyzed by national interests and bureaucracy. Too often we hesitate when the world demands decisive action. This, ladies and gentlemen, has come to an end. We need fundamental reforms. We need a European Union that is capable of acting swiftly, decisively, and with a clear sense of purpose. Nowhere is that more urgent than in the area of defense. Europe cannot continue to rely on others for its security. When we talk about Europe 2025, we do this in a world where the international order is increasingly eroding, in a world in which democracies are under attack from inside and out. Wars, conflicts, and human suffering are continuing relentlessly in Ukraine, in the Middle East, in many parts of Africa. Russia is investing its national wealth into its war economy and is destroying the European security architecture. At the same time, we are facing challenges within the alliance. I have often heard a question: how many wake-up calls does the EU, does our Europe still need? And let me tell you, I completely understand everybody asking. Europe is a global power, of course. At the same time, we struggle with military weakness, patterns of inaction, hesitation, and reliance on the United States of America. But the United States is increasingly focused on other regions of the world. And while it continues to be committed to NATO, a new unpredictability has entered our transatlantic relations. Though we have recognized this trend for some time already, the intensity and harshness of recent developments has been eye-opening. There's no doubt about it. We Europeans must take on more responsibility for the security of our continent, for our own sake and for our close transatlantic bond to continue. We need to be quick, coordinated and transparent in strengthening our defense. In doing so, we need to think and act more European, while at the same time enhancing, of course, the transatlantic partnership. The frequency with which I meet my European colleagues, for example, from France, UK, Poland, and Italy as part of the Group of Five, which I initiated in November last year, the day after Trump was re-elected, shows that we are serious about this. Together, we are working on initiatives that can make a difference for all European partners. In that sense, European 2025 truly needs to stand for rethinking security and defense. But we Europeans do not simply need to rethink, we need to act. We need to stand on our own 2 feet. In my opinion, 3 areas of activity are particularly important. First of all, Both Germany and Europe will need to considerably increase defense spending. Last week, Germany took a huge turn regarding its defense spending. We made a change, of course, towards more military capabilities and operational readiness. By decoupling the defense budget from our debt ceiling, I have been struggling for that for at least 1 year, we have created much more flexibility and more planning security. Things both we and the defense industry urgently need. With this, we have shown we are ready to take on a leading role, and we are ready to become an even stronger partner in Europe. At the same time, the European Union is equally taking an important stand in terms of mobilizing and efficiently using financial resources. The Rearm Europe plan by the European Commission and the White Paper for European Defence are 2 important steps in the right direction. But we need more of these steps. Rearm Europe will enable all EU partners to invest more in security and defense by permitting a more flexible application of the Stability and Growth Pact, by repurposing funds from the current EU budget, and through the new financing instrument SAFE. Looking ahead, we are committed to ensuring that the next EU budget allocates a greater share to security and defense. At the same time, strengthening the European Investment Bank will be essential. Europe is home to many innovative military technology companies which we must invest in now. In this critical phase, our ability to defend ourselves must not be put at risk by funding constraints or budget ceilings. It's about putting security and safety first, ladies and gentlemen. This brings me to my second point: quick, efficient, and responsible procurement. Improving our procurement is a powerful lever for strengthening our defense. We must procure more, and we must procure faster. And we need to increase interoperability and decrease bureaucracy. This applies at the European level, but also at home. Interoperability, economies of scale, and short production cycles are the qualities that make for a strong European defense industry. Specifications for weapon systems should be defined once for all partners, and then procured jointly using framework contracts. We also need standardized certification rules. It is unacceptable that an artillery system that has been certified in the Netherlands has to undergo another lengthy certification process in Germany. Deregulation is a way forward. This is a way ahead for us to slim down procurement procedures, cut red tape, and increase interoperability. And we need both agile technology startups as well as strong and efficient European champions to supply our armed forces. To tell you the truth, this will not be easy, because it will require us to put aside our national interests, but it is worth it. And third of all, our reliable support of Ukraine remains indispensable for peace in Europe. Putin continues to show no actual interest in a real ceasefire or even peace. I want to be quite clear about it. A just and lasting peace for Ukraine must involve its independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. It starts with the negotiations. In order to put an end to Russia's war, Ukraine must fully participate in these negotiations, no doubt about that. Any peace agreement must include credible security guarantees for Ukraine. And the Ukrainian armed forces must remain robust and well-equipped. This is the only way to sustainably deter Russia, whose arms production continues at full speed. Ladies and gentlemen, the This is what Europe 2025 is about. We need a powerful message of stability and security in these uncertain times. Our message needs to be: European defense cooperation is closer than ever. Defense spending is going up. We are putting national interests aside for the common good. We coordinate closely in terms of armament and procurement. And we continue to stand firmly by Ukraine. We Europeans need to step up. We are responsible for the security of our continent. While this may worry us, there's no way around it. We need a strong will and European economic and military power, as well as solidarity to defend our security, maintain our prosperity, and remain a global player. It is no secret that unity does not always come easy. It is being tested again and again by some states' obstructive stance. In the end, this just weakens our cohesion. Let me be clear. Either Europe will see this moment as a final wake-up call or fade into geopolitical irrelevance. Let us not allow that. Europe must not be weakened nor destroyed, whether from the outside or from within. Our European community may be a complicated one, but it is worth it. Let us not lose any time. Looking back on this period in 20 years, I want to be able to say, we Europeans stood up. We took responsibility for our own security and for the security for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Herr Pistorius. I think there was a lot in this speech to discuss, and to do that, I am joining you here on the stage with Minister Hanno Pevkur from Estonia. He's one of Estonia's most experienced policymakers. Is there any cabinet position that you haven't held so far? I just know that? Okay. So we are joining you here to discuss your speech, and I would like to go from the back and start with your third point. The war in Ukraine and the peace talks we're currently witnessing in Saudi Arabia. You said that Ukraine needs credible security guarantees. What does that mean concretely?
Well, that does mean, in the first place, that the best security guarantee for Ukraine are the Ukrainian armed forces. And we have to do, and we need to do, everything to support the armed forces, to help them keeping equipped in the best way which is possible, and to strengthen the European and the Ukrainian defense industry. This is the first point. The second one is any peace or ceasefire agreement without participation, direct participation of Ukraine, without participation of European countries who are supposed to guarantee what's happening afterwards, would be, I would not say worthless, but always in danger. Always in danger to be really guaranteed. Therefore, it's necessary to do what I mentioned. And the second point is we need the US. I mean, guaranteeing security guarantees, achieving security guarantees in Ukraine, and that means for Europe as well, does need European support in what kind and in what measure ever. But we need the alliance. We do everything we can do to achieve what is possible with our possibilities, our capabilities, but still it needs the US.
Hanno Pevkur, as we speak, President Emmanuel Macron is gathering his colleagues, your colleague in Paris, and over 30 other leaders, also the NATO Secretary General, to speak about how Europe can support Ukraine. So from your point of view, what are credible securities? What should be discussed in Paris today?
Well, good morning, first of all, and yeah, good morning, and danke für diese tere hommikust, or whatever you said. Something in Estonian, I try to reflect in German, so good morning. Ist eine Ehre für mich hier zu sein und Berlin ist eine wunderschöne Stadt und ist immer eine Ehre, hier zu sein und mit Boris zu treffen und mit euch. Ja, danke. Aber, okay, when we talk about the security guarantees and then what will be discussed in Paris, then probably we have to split two things. One is what will be discussed in Paris regarding the security guarantees for the future for Ukraine. We still believe that the best security guarantee is the membership of NATO. Because when you think today that Ukraine has 110 ready-to-fight brigades, Europe altogether, NATO altogether, doesn't have such a number at the moment. So we have a question, either those 110 brigades will be on our side or someone else's side. The second point is that the peace talks. And the peace talks, I fully agree that that Ukraine has to be behind the table. Without Ukraine, any bad peace in Ukraine is bad peace for Europe. So this is something we have to understand. But of course, that also means that when we want to give credible security guarantees for Ukraine, we have to be stronger. We have to show that we can not only defend our own continent, Europe, but also we are able to help Ukraine to maintain the peace, to maintain the sovereignty. And there was a question in the morning, or the first question that is Germany ready in 4 years? Germany is ready also today. Estonia is ready also today. When there is any doubt in that, I will just disagree with anyone who says that we are not ready. We are ready also today. If there is a need to defend our people, our countries, we will do that from the first meter, from the first minute on.
Minister Pistorius, NATO membership for Ukraine. Pete Hegseth, the American Minister of Defense, has excluded that when he was in Brussels a couple of weeks ago ahead of the Munich Security Conference. Do you feel it's still on the table? Is there a way of swaying the American opinion?
Well, Pete Hegseth did nothing else but to repeat what his president announced before. And President Trump took the membership of Ukraine in NATO off the table without any pressure. He took it off the table as well as to negotiate about territory. He took it off the table before even having started to negotiate. I will never understand that. Never. Because when I start negotiations, I put even more on the table than rather to take anything off the table. This is what I learned about negotiations. So I don't understand that, and therefore I'm afraid that the membership of NATO, of Ukraine in NATO, is off the table, and I hope it will not stand there or will not remain there. But we'll see about that. I don't know.
Mm. I would say, if I may, just very briefly, it's off the table for the next 4 years. We never know what happens.
You never know what happens, yes.
Because we saw how quickly everything changed, basically in 60 days. And again, when as I like to say sometimes that, when it happens, you cannot avoid it. Mm. So when the membership of NATO for Ukraine happens, then of course we will be supportive for that. But for Estonia, it also took a lot of time. Mm. But we've been now solid members of NATO for 20 years, investing 2% throughout 20 years. Going to 5+% starting from 2026. Mm,
and therefore it's so important to strengthen the European pillar of NATO. Mm. We need more independency, we need more sovereignty, we need more strategic autonomy as well. Without cutting the bonds to Washington, we will remain reliable partners in the alliance, and Washington, the US, will hopefully same. Mm-hmm.
What will be the equivalent of that in coalition talks in Germany, taking the best thing off the table right now? Giving the Christian Democrats a debt break? Okay, all right. also something happening practically as we speak, or what happened also this week. There are Saudi-moderated talks between the United States and Russia and the United States and Ukraine on a temporary ceasefire deal. Minister Pevkur, from your perspective, are they getting any closer to true peace?
Well, you know, what Boris also said during the speech, that you know, when we talk about the ceasefire, or when we think about, you know, what's going to happen, then we have to understand that, you know, Ukraine has to be behind the table. That's first. The second, regarding the US participation on the security guarantees. Well, we all understand that they have to be there to guarantee that peace. And there is one very pragmatic and practical reason. So when the United States wants to have rare minerals from Ukraine, then you cannot you know, mine those minerals without having the clear sky, without having the security guarantees in place. So also when you take this economical point of view, then US needs to be there with us, together with Ukraine. And of course there are many you know, details which will be discussed, because first, of course, in Paris we will discuss, and then the leaders will discuss, okay, what will be the coalition of willing, and what will be the presence of European forces or coalition forces in Ukraine. Before answering finally to that question, we need to understand that what will be this ceasefire or peace? How many Russian troops will be on this contact line? Because this will be a contact line, not a border. We will never recognize this as a border. So, and we will never recognize that somebody is taking your territory by force. So that means that we need to understand, will it be 600,000 Russian troops there or 60,000 troops? Then, because when there will be 60,000 troops, then it's a totally different situation. There will be a new pressure also on the eastern flank, because then Russia will redistribute the forces to the eastern flank. So we cannot jeopardize also the eastern flank security. So there are many details needed, what we need to discuss. But the first and foremost is the Ukrainian wish. When they are ready to sit and to talk about ceasefire, because at the moment what we see, just as a last point to that topic, we see that Russia is, what Boris said, you cannot take off the table some things. What Russia is doing at the moment, that they are promising something which is guaranteed already. They say that they will not attack energy infrastructure. Sorry, they have already bombed everything. They say that they will not attack the vessels on the Black Sea. They've not done that in last 3 years anymore, or 2.5 years. So it's easy to promise something what you are doing anyway. And this is why they are saying to Ukrainians that you have to stop mobilizing people, you have to stop training the people, but we will stop this, what we have stopped already many months and years ago. So this is not the proper negotiation, and this is not the way to negotiate.
Mm. Do you agree?
Fully. I fully agree, and we could see that and watch that very obviously. Just one night after the first phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, they continued bombing Ukraine, and even stronger than the days before, and it continued the weeks afterwards. So what are we talking about? Putin is proving every day that he is actually not really interested in any kind of ceasefire for the moment. He is gaining time for his purposes.
So if there was a peace in the near future, which you both seem to be skeptical about, the question might arise of what Europe can contribute to the security guarantees, and can Europe contribute troops to secure peace in Ukraine? And we might hear Olaf Scholz speak about this later today in Paris. He has announced a presser, and it is on the table in Paris today. Macron and Stammer have put it on the table today. So, Mr. Pistorius, would Germany be willing to put troops on Ukrainian ground?
Two things are quite clear to me. First is, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not used to put anything on the table or off the table before the negotiations start. And as military people used to say is, we decide whether and how we cross the bridge when we are in front of the bridge, and not a couple of miles before. So let's see about that when we arrived at that point. Second point is, it's quite clear. Germany is the most important, the biggest ally in Europe, in NATO, and the biggest economy in Europe. So I can't imagine any situation in which Germany would not be participating in whatever would be the result of a negotiation for a ceasefire or even a peace. But it has to be decided when the time has come. And it depends on so many parameters, like how many troops will be anyway accepted in a ceasefire, what could be the mandate, who is taking part in it. Is this nothing we should discuss publicly on the marketplaces before it's even clear whether we will have a ceasefire or not?
Macron and Starmer appear to think, though, that this might be a way to get Europe into the negotiations in the first place, offering something.
Well, let's see whether they are successful. I would hope so, but I don't believe it for the moment. There is no signal visible or to hear about in Washington that they are willing to let us on the table. And I'm afraid that could remain like that.
Hanno Pevkur, do you agree? Is it too early to talk troops?
Well, we need to talk about it. So for sure, and also the public media and our societies needs to understand what is on stake, but of course to communicate and to say the final decision, for that we need to have the consensus. As I mentioned the troops, but also the rules of engagement, for instance. Exactly. This is clearly military, the military viewpoint, that we cannot go anywhere without knowing the rules of engagement. We have to know that when there is a drone dropping into our forces or into our troops, what we will do. We have to know what are, and one thing what we have to keep in mind. When we send the troops there, and Estonia has said all the time that we will be there. We will be behind the negotiation table in that sense, and that we will not leave Ukraine. We are together with Ukraine today. We were together with them even before the full-scale war started, and we are together with them after the war ends. So there is no question about it. The question is that, first, as I said, we cannot jeopardize the eastern flank security, but secondly, because we are keeping also Berlin safe. So when the front door of NATO is closed, Berlin can be safe. So that's very simple understanding. But also we have to be very clear that when our troops are there, German troops, Estonian troops, French troops, British troops, then those troops are fixed there, and there will be a temptation for Russia to bind us there and then to test us somewhere else. So this is why we need to be very careful that which kind of troops we will send there, which is the mandate. Will there be only blue berets or something else? So what is the mandate, what Boris said? So many things to discuss before we say, yes, we are there, or yes, we will support Ukrainians in this way. But for sure, we will be discussing that very seriously.
I could not agree more.
Mr. Pistorius, in your speech you have said there's a new unpredictability in transatlantic relations. What does that mean for NATO? Do you trust NATO is the right framework to organize European security? You have already mentioned strengthening the European pillar, but can we trust Donald Trump to stick to Article 5?
I trust in the future of NATO.
That's brief. And a question to you, do you agree? I mean, this is a particularly challenging question for Estonia, which
so you want
might
me
be
to say that I trust Boris?
Okay. Is that enough?
No, but to be honest, NATO has been successfully defending the alliance for 75 years. Why do we have to believe that it's not capable of doing that for the next 75 or 750 years? NATO is the strongest military alliance in the world, period. And we know that. And also Europe. We have 500 million people. We have, the one thing we have to do, yes, is that we have to double our defense spendings. This is for sure, that, as I said, we go above 5%, but we have to have more self-confidence, self-belief in ourselves. We as Europeans have our economy, or the Russian economy, is just the economy of the size of Benelux countries. So we have all the means. And trust me, even when we put 4% into defense, all the schools will be open, all the roads will be clean, and all the trains will be still, driving on, or riding on the railways. So they will not disappear. We have to have more self-confidence in ourselves.
Mm-hmm. We're running out of time, but I want to take one question from the audience, from Christoph Gottschalk. Who is the current strong leader in Europe? And that's an easy one you can answer with one word.
That's quite clear. We have at least 5 or 6 of them.
So could you name them?
Well, I mean, Hanno is very important for the Baltics and for the eastern flank. Like, he's really somebody who is talking clearly, who is going ahead, who is leading with clear statements and actings. And at the same time, we have in the middle and the western part of Europe, of course, a strong alliance between France and Germany. I'm very close to Sébastien Lecornu, and we are doing a lot for the moment. We initiated the Group of 5, which is very important, with the biggest 5 biggest defense spending countries like UK, Poland, Italy, Germany, and France. And we are going ahead. We have met already 5 times in the short period since the beginning of November, and we'll do next time in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, because we really are very concrete in what is now urgently to do in Europe with regard to defense industry, with regard to joint procurement, with regard to have in mind that we need, of course, like somebody mentioned earlier, we need, of course, tanks in the future too, but we need drones. We need to benefit from AI much more than we do now. So everything of that, we are working on that, and we are proceeding. So we have some very strong leaders in Europe, and this is a very strong and very important signal be sent to Washington too.
Very briefly, I understand, we have coalition negotiations at the moment in Germany, and everybody would like to talk or to discuss, will Boris be continuing as a Minister of Defense, or, who will be the next foreign minister, or the portfolios are always important. But trust me, in politics, it is so that we have to agree on the principles first. And this is the same also in Europe. When we have the understanding, the common understanding that we will do more joint procurements, we will have more interoperability and interchangeability in our military systems, then this is more important than to talk that is it Ursula von der Leyen, or is it Boris Pistorius, or is it Emmanuel Macron, or Keir Starmer. So this comes later. First, let's agree on that, what we do, and then we say who will do it. So this is more important. When we cannot agree on among 27 countries that we have joint procurements. By the way, we are in joint procurement at the moment together with Germany regarding the European Sky Shield Initiative and air defense. We are together with 5 countries acquiring the air defense short range, and this is what we do. So let's agree on the principles, and then let's see who will be the person to execute these.
I was talking about countries, not about persons.
We have to clear the stage. We have to clear the stage, unfortunately, for Christian Tretbar and Annalena Baerbock, but I can't let you go without asking, will the next Minister of Defense be Boris Pistorius?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. But would you like to be the next Minister of Defense?
I always have been emphasizing during the last month, I would love to continue my work, because it's not done yet.
All right. Thank you.